so everybody can see when we make the, or if he goes to close-ups, everybody will have a perspective on where you're sitting, what you're doing, which one's the youngest, which one's the oldest, which is the smartest, which is the hardest working. This is the shot is for anybody who is in it to be talking, because then because you're just using the shot and the shot are talking, then viewers get disturbed because they want to hear what you're saying when you see the mouse moving. So what that means is that under the vamp, so and talk a lot till he's through, so nobody else will talk. One.
I'm David Crane.
David Crane.
David Crane, C-R-N-E.
Larry Kaplan, K-A-P-L-A-N.
Al Miller.
M-I-L-L-E-R.
Yes. Bob Whitehead.
W-H-I-T-E.
H-A-D. Yes.
Okay. Were the four of you together at Atari when you decided to strike out, or how did that happen?
Yes, we worked together in designing games, and decided that we wanted to go off and try something on our own, and through several different iterations ended up with Activision.
What was it that you wanted to be able to do in terms of creating new programs for these games? Were there things that you wanted to add that weren't there in the beginning?
Well, I guess that would have to be creative freedom is what we mostly desired. A place where we could work by ourselves in a nice creative environment and be able to create games and have a good time playing them without the...
You want to start again, please? You got, okay. What was it that you wanted when you broke away and banded together to do this?
I guess it'd have to be creative freedom was what we were searching for most, a place where we could design games, have a good time playing them, and create an environment where we could create games that other people would enjoy playing without the undue pressures of management and other things that were happening.
Now, your graphics are more sophisticated than the Atari graphics are for the cartridges that they have. Were you all responsible for the graphic improvements that you've made here, or how did all that come about?
That's a tough question to answer. I don't think we, together as a group, worked on it. It's just each of us was individually striving to create better and better games.
Do you compete with each other? Back here?
I think we all try to do better than anything that has been done in the past. And that kind of competitive pressure keeps us going.
What about the idea of, we'll go to the back here, Mr. Whitehead, about engineers as creative artists. I guess that's something that's just fairly recent experience.
I would assume so, yeah. But the problem in the past, I think engineering and programming has probably been bogged down by the technical problems. And I think now with technology advancing the way it is, it allows for a creative person like we assume ourselves creative people to expand and use the capabilities of technology.
Do you guys like the idea of having your names on the games once they're marketed, having people know who you are?
That was part of it in terms of the freedom.
Okay, so we'll start again. Do you like the idea of having your names on the games, so you can picture what they...
Yeah, I mean, clearly it's, for most of us before, when we were just programmers, we were just a programmer at a company. Now we're able to create a product that our friends and family enjoy playing. They can go to the stores and see the product, purchase it, and we get a lot of feedback that way, and the personal identification gives us an incentive to create a much better product, much as any artist or writer would, and wanting to make a much better thing that everybody else would enjoy playing or doing.
Who gets the most fan mail?
I think Dave does.
Okay, now Dave, what are the shows that you've done, or the cartridges?
Well, the first cartridge I did was Dragster. And Dragster is a very difficult game to learn, but once you learn it, you spend hours mastering it. And we get a lot of people who write in telling me how much time they spend on Dragster. And as a matter of fact, we have a complete family who stays together playing the game at home, rather than going out and doing other things. And it's kind of nice to know that there are people out there playing your game and enjoying it.
Has anybody ever gotten a letter that really made you stop and think, I'm doing something that affects a lot of people, that people get enjoyment, where you sort of took it home and wanted everybody else to read it and see what was happening? Okay.
I actually it was one of the few we try to answer all our letters, but it was one letter that I took note of specifically, and the guy was really impressed with the games, and he asked me a bunch of questions on how do you become a programmer, and so I gave him a list of what he should do after graduation from high school, and what to go to college, and what kind of qualifications you really need. And the guy really sounded excited about becoming a game programmer.
Do you feed off of each other, or do you guys keep your things secret from the group, or does everybody know everything about what everybody else is doing?
I think we call it badgering. If I'm sitting down designing a game, and I've got a preliminary picture on the screen and I'm working on it, Dave will sit or yell over and say something like, "Boy, that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen." And of course, it's a challenge to him then to make a better picture, so he helps design portions of the picture, or comes up with a better way of doing something so that it plays better or looks better on the screen. And so we all do that to each other, and it's really, in some ways, in terms of the competition aspect, it is sort of badgering in the way that but a very friendly way in terms of getting it, really spurring the person on to make a much better game than it really is at the time. And again, it's a challenge. To Dave, we have to give him the challenge of the impossible. If the task is not impossible, he won't even attempt doing it. So we have to make sure that he knows that we think it's impossible. And once we've accomplished that we've got him to the position where he has to compete in that sense, and then he does.
What's the process of designing and putting together a game from the concept to actually programming it and designing the circuitry for the game? Is it as mystifying as it seems to be just looking at what comes out of it, or is it?
Well, that varies. It varies from game to game. Okay, we do several different types of games, from sports games to parodies of real life, and each one is generated in its own different way. A sports game has its own rules. You already know that football has certain rules and games like that, and so we just convert it to video and try to make it play well in the video format. Other games, like Freeway, for example, was taken from a real life situation. We were trying to get across Lakeshore Drive, and somebody remarked, "Hey, what a great video game!" And so we came back and made it into a video game. And they all start differently. They can start as a pretty picture on the screen that is made into a video game that plays, or there's any number of ways.
And when you say convert it to video, I mean, that sounds pretty simple, but that's really where all of the technical part comes in, isn't it?
Right, that's our job.
You're not going to tell me how to do it either, are you?
Well, in a way, I mean, this is back to the artist sense. In a sense, it's like an artist creating a picture, a painting. When an artist tries to translate his feeling and his emotions into a picture on a canvas and trying to convey that feeling to somebody else, there's a technical skill involved. He has to know how to choose what colors, how to use the brush, and how to put the things on the canvas in such a way that he gets an artistic picture. And in some senses, our technical skill is very similar. You have to know programming and how to use a computer and how to debug a computer and make sure that if there's a problem in your game, if the tennis ball is going haywire, you have to know how to fix that. And there's a technical skill there. But still, the overall impression you want to give is, I want to make it feel like the guy's playing tennis. And so most of our work really goes into that. The technical skill is just sort of something we do. And it's like sleeping or eating. It's something we do, and we can do in our sleep or while we're eating. And it's a more matter of getting that game in there that really plays well, and then the technical details generally fall into place.
Is Mr. Miller back here normally the quiet one? Or?
Yes, I think so.
What games have you worked
The first game that I did for Activision was checkers, and I followed that with tennis. And I'm currently hot at work on my third cartridge here.
Tell me about the tennis game. You even put a shadow under the ball to increase the realism.
Yes, the shadow immensely helps people recognize where the ball is on the court. I tried to give some implications of 3 dimensions in this tennis game. Actually, technically speaking, adding the shadow was very easy. What I had to do was decide in my own mind that a shadow was good and necessary for the game. After that, it was rather easy to put in.
Now, how much time will you spend? How much time will you spend working on a game like that, from the time you decide you want to do it to the time it actually?
I typically spend about 2 weeks thinking about what I want to do before I'll begin any programming. After that, I'll spend another 2 to 4 weeks getting the first impression of the game on the screen. And if it's successful at that point, then I'll continue on for another 2 or 3 months to complete the game, put in all the playability, eliminate any spurious problems that might exist. So about between 2 and 5 months, I would say.
Okay, you guys are great. Thank you.
The only thing I did have in mind was that who's the space star movie?
Well, we're all into science fiction movies and science fiction books, and also playing the current video games, the space craze. But when we're designing our video games, we basically do what comes naturally at the time. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do a space game. Now, we've done a space game, but it just fell in the natural progression.
I didn't mean not to listen to you, but I didn't want you looking at it. I had to put my hand down and come with it. Thanks very much.
First game that Popcorn invented is computer space, operating games, and home games. Drag race, for example, failed as a coin-op game.
Normal aggressions in any kind of family situation.
Yeah, oh, it's
Get a
wonderful.
couple of brothers.
The wives love to take on your husbands.
Thousands of
It
games.
takes you 15 minutes.
Then what's the number change? Is that years? Low end of red line. So you see that when we're doing a lot of shifting, we tend to shift right into the low end of red line, but you don't go past the acceleration.
Auto Trend and popular
Not quite.
Dragster magazine and all this.
There's
They had a tournament at, Dragster magazine had a tournament in Las Vegas. They had a dragster tournament the day before the Consumer Electronics Show.
They had about an hour ahead of time for people to learn how to do it before they actually did the time. The guy who brought, I think it was 6'11", and he was an older man. I think he was 50s, but it was in a desert in